Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Top of the Box, where I, Luke Pickles, your Dungeon Master from EatCrit and Survive, and general board game fan, are going to talk to you about some of my top 10 games of a thing. Big category, we're going to talk about it. Today, we're going to follow on from the episode we did last time, which was all about board games that I prefer to play digitally. I talked about this last time that playing board games digitally has been a massive boom during the pandemic. There has been a lot of developments with Board Game Arena, Tabletopia, Sovranti, Yakuza, all sorts of different gaming apps and softwares and such that allow you to play board games digitally. But the reason for these being in existence is so that people can try games to then buy them. Makes sense, right? So this list is going to be 10 games that I bought after playing them online. So let's see what games are going to be on that list. But before we go anywhere, please don't forget to like, follow and subscribe if you do all the fun stuff here. And check us out on twitch.tv/EatCritSurvive, because that's where we do a lot of our live stuff. So hopefully we'll see you there. But let's get into number 10. At number 10, I have Tilly with me because she wanted to talk to you about this one. It is Dog Park, the wonderfully thematic board game about walking dogs and gaining reputation on it. Laura and I played this back on stream almost a year ago now. It was about 50 episodes ago when we played them. And it was back when it was kickstarting. And we loved the game. We thought it was great fun. It's really thematic. You're taking dogs for a walk. You're betting reputation on whether you're going to be able to walk them particularly well. You're going to be enticing dogs into your kennels and taking them out on those walks using treats and balls and squeaky toys and all sorts. And there are points for getting the breeds, for getting the most reputation. There's a lot of stuff going on in the game. It's kind of a worker placement linear rondel, I guess, moving along a track. And you're all about collecting those dogs and making sure that their powers combo together. We really enjoyed the playthrough when it was on Kickstarter, so we instantly backed it. And it turned up a week or two ago, and it was almost immediately onto the table. I mean, there are some games here that you've seen in previous video, My City and Stuffed Fables, they're still in their shrink, because we just haven't gotten time to play them. But Dog Park, that was an almost instant play. We loved it. We thought it was fantastically cute. The artwork is beautiful on all the dogs. There are some dogs in there that we recognise. Isn't there, Tilly? Yeah. And we have the deluxe edition as well, which has some wonderful upgraded bits and things like that were available from that Kickstarter. But we just loved it. It was something that I really enjoyed playing. It's got a lot of the mechanisms that I enjoy, sort of that worker placement, set collecting, dogs. Not really a mechanism, but dogs. Great. It was a great theme. So yeah, it was an instant bag for us. We really enjoyed playing it. There's a lot to explore in there. So that is our number 10, Dog Park. At number 9 is proof that we don't just buy board games from playing them through, we also buy their expansions too. Number 9 is Wingspan's Oceania expansion by Elizabeth Hardgraves and Stonemaier Games. The Oceania expansion for Wingspan, which is slowly becoming one of my favourite games, is just fantastic. It introduces more birds into the scenario, which is great. That's what you like. You want to see these beautiful birds. And we've played Wingspan a fair few times now. We've played it at least 4 with various different combinations of expansions. And the Oceania expansion was the one that really stuck out to me. You've got a new set of powers in there. You've got a whole new resource. You've got that nectar that changes up the egg strategy a little bit. Because you're not just focusing on getting eggs at the end game. You're focusing on getting nectar so that you can use the wild resource to do something else. And I think if you're going to make an expansion for a game like Wingspan, which has a lot of stuff already going for it, putting in more of the same is great, and putting in something that changes the game up slightly is even better. I think it's a really fantastic expansion. I was really happy when I got it as a birthday present, because I asked for it. Yeah, expansions are great to include on these things, and being able to try them out is a huge boon, I think. So definitely keep doing that, publishers. So that is my number 9, the expansion for Wingspan, the Oceania expansion specifically. So let's get into number 8. At number 8 is the Kenishfield de Jarez nominated Lost Ruins of Arnak and its expansions, The Expedition Leader. Now, this is a game that we played on Board Game Arena a couple of times. I played it with a few friends from Discord. Tilly's just popping around, sorry about that. And I played it a few times on Board Game Arena because I wanted to see what all the hype was about. And I didn't get it to start off with. And then it suddenly clicked. And I thought, okay, I understand what's happening here. Lost Ruins of Anak is a worker placement deck building game where you are trying to research different levels of the research track. You're trying to explore different parts of this world of Anak, going through the jungle, going by car, by boat, by plane, and trying to uncover different stuff. There's all sorts of resources that you have to manage around with it. There is money and rubies and arrowheads and all sorts of things. And it's really interesting. I think it's a lot of fun to try and fix that puzzle of just extending your turns for as long as you can. It's up there with Paladins of the West Kingdom, that sort of extending your turns for as much as you can. And I love worker placement, I love deck building, two of my favourite mechanisms. So giving those two combined into one game is great. Laura and I played it when we went down to Thirsty Meatballs in Bath, great board game cafe, shout out to them, and we really enjoyed it. And it was something that we just went, okay, yes, next opportunity we get, we're going to purchase this game. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to make sure I do that. And I watched a few videos by various people, including the Brother Smurf, who talked about the Expedition Leaders expansion. And it seemed like a no-brainer to me, because it added just something different to the game. Like, the normal worker placement is great, but you can get to the end of it and think, oh, if only I had an extra worker, or if I did something else, I didn't quite maximize it, which is kind of what this game is there for. It's a lot of fun to be able to think, oh, but I could have done this, and I could have done this, and I could have resourced better, and I could have drawn better. It's, luck is a huge feature in the game. And the Expedition Leaders adds a lot into that. I didn't pick up the Expedition Leaders because I played it online. I picked it up because of recommendations that I'd seen on other board game content. But the base game itself was something I really enjoyed. And now I've played it with the expansion, I'm probably not going to play it without it again, unless I'm really introducing it to people. And to be honest, I probably will just keep it in anyway, because it's quite good fun. So yeah, after a few plays on Board Game Arena, it suddenly made sense to me. Played it physically, loved the physical components, and just had to add it to the collection. So that is my number 7, The Lost Ruins of Anak. And number 7 is the small box game that has a huge amount packed into it. From Devere Games, it is The Red Cathedral. In The Red Cathedral, you are moving around a rondel, moving your dice about so that you can gain different resources, and you're moving based on the value of pips that are showing on the dice. You need those resources so that you can then build different parts of the Red Cathedral in Russia, and you're just trying to build and claim as much as you can so that you can get those resources to build as much as you can to push the endgame into your favour. I really enjoyed playing this when we played it on Tabletopia. We tried to play it twice. In fact, we did play it on successive weeks. The first time, for some reason, our streaming system did not work. Second time but we thought, we'll just play it anyway. Second time, we managed to get everything working, and we really enjoyed it again. It was a lot of fun. Laura, Dom, and I had a great time with this rondel, and we ended up with a really close score at the end of it. And what I like about this game is that there are 2 scoring tracks, effectively. There's the Prestige and there's the Reputation, and as you move around the 2 different tracks, you can score up different things. You can take advantage of the fact that you can drop a Prestige in order to gain some money, and then bump up a Prestige so that you go up to the next level. And there's some really cool combos that you can do with them. There's a lot of replayability just out of the box. And now there's the Contractors expansion, which I really want to give a go to. But we really enjoyed it when we played it for the first time. We then had an opportunity to play it with a friend that we made at Aircon. We sat around the table and we just played it, and we're like, okay, we really understand this. This is going to be a good game. I think we ended up with 2 points as the spread between first and third. It was ridiculous how close we came. And it was such a good, tight game. No one felt like they were massively getting left behind. It's just a huge amount of fun. I think it's fantastic. And I'm realising now that all of the games I've mentioned so far have been just in this section of my shelves. Which is kind of handy. But yeah, that is my number 7, The Red Cathedral. And number 6 is a game that isn't in this section of the shelving. It's right up there. It's Maglev Metro. And it being up there is no indication of what I think about it, it's just where I had space at the time. Maglev Metro is a pick up and deliver train game where you are going to be laying down different tracks and moving robots and people about futuristic Berlin or New York. Is it Berlin? And as you're going around New York and Berlin, you are laying out different pieces of track, you are trying to connect different stations. It's a pick up and deliver game, so you're going to different stations, picking up robots, bringing them back to put them into your engine, effectively, to make your actions more powerful. So the more robots you have in a particular action, the more times you're going to be able to do so. Then, once you have managed to get your actions to a suitable point, you can either unlock more actions, you can get yourself so that you can pick up humans, and getting the humans is useful because they're great for scoring points at the end of the game, along with all the various scoring objectives that you have. So, there's a real dichotomy of what you want to try and do, whether you want to try and focus in on one particular thing or you want to try and do a bit of a spread. And it gets really interesting. Dom and I really enjoyed our playthrough of it, and as I say, I've got it up there. I played it with Ross on my birthday, and it's a really great game. We really enjoyed ourselves. There's a lot of fun in that game. There's a few little quirks about playing it in the digital space, but playing it digitally means you want to play it physically. And playing it physically is what we want to do with these board games, so I think that's a real boon to it. So that is my number 6, Maglev Metro. Before we get to the next one, we are going to talk about the people who helped make this possible, and that is GameTee, who are wonderful providers of gaming gear and goods. You can go and check them out. They make some wonderful stuff, including cushions, t-shirts, candles, maps, all sorts of wonderful digital artwork, and a lot of things in between. So you can go and check out gametee.co.uk, and you can enter the code EatCritSurvive to get yourself 5% off. There is some wonderful stuff there, and I've probably got flickering around up here. You can go check them out. They make some great stuff. And number 5 is a game that I first discovered whilst playing on our partner platform at Sovranti, and it is Dice Miner. Dice Miner is very quickly becoming one of my favourite filler games. It's very quick, it's very light, very easy to explain. There's all sorts of different asymmetric powers on it, so it doesn't get stale. And what you're doing is you are dwarves who are mining dice. What's going to happen is you're going to have a whole bunch of dice that you're going to throw into the mountain and pick out a dice on your turn with 2 faces that are available. So you can't take one that's all the way down at the bottom that's trapped in. You have to take one out that's free for you to take. And as you take those dice, you're going to be putting them into either sets or trying to get them into configurations so that they score, as well as trying to avoid the hazards on the black dice. There's also a mechanism with beers where you can cheers someone. You can give them a die that you don't particularly want or that has a beer on it and give it to someone else. It may benefit them, it may hurt them. Who knows? We'll find out as the game plays out. And by the end of it, in a 2-player game, you have a huge chunk of dice because you keep the dice from round to round. So you can potentially score even more points. And it's just so light and easy. You could play it in 15 minutes if you wanted to. But it was a game that was really hard to come by in the UK. For some reason, I think it was probably just had finished its first print run when it was available on Sovranti. And it took a while for them to reprint it. But then it got a second print run, and I was like, yes, fine. And it sits on our shelves now. And it's a really fun game. It's got a cool little mountain that stands out from the crowd. It's a very good game. And I don't think I would have played it if it hadn't been on Sovranti. So check out Sovranti. Use the code EatCrit to get yourself a free platinum account. But that is my number 5. Let's see what's at number 4. And number 4 is a game that I picked up at Aircon, and that is Tapestry. Tapestry is a really interesting, heavy Stonemaier game. It is a civilization building game where you are going to be moving up one of 4 tracks. Either military, technology, science, and exploration. And as you're moving up these different tracks, you're going to be doing different things and paying different resources in order to do so. And you're playing the game over a series of 5 eras, and at the end of each era, you're going to gather in resources that you have uncovered from your player board, and use those to your advantage for the next round. You have different async maps and powers that you are going to have throughout the game. And Dom and I have played it on Board Game Arena. I think we're playing it again soon. Probably just gone by the time this comes out. And It's a really interesting game. I like the element of strategy to it. There's different things that you can do each game. And I don't think I would have picked it up if it wasn't available to play on Board Game Arena first. I've always been intrigued by it, but it looks like there's a lot there. And if you don't know what's going on going in, it can be a little bit tricky. So being able to play it on Board Game Arena and having people explain it to me as I was playing it made it really approachable for me. And then I picked it up at a Bring and Buy at Aircon. So I was really chuffed to find it there secondhand, pick it up. Now I have it in my collection because it's a really good game. It's a lot of fun, and I think we should be playing it. And we talked about expansions earlier. Ross and I have played the Arts and Architecture expansion for Tapestry, and I think that's great as well. We played that on Tabletopia just as something to do at the end of the workday, and that introduced a whole new track. It was really intriguing for us. So that is definitely something that I'm going to consider picking up next time I have the option to buy a new expansion. So that is my number 4 Tapestry. And number 3 is my former number 3 of all time. It is Cascadia. Cascadia is the beautiful tile placement game where you are building out different habitats for 5 different animal types, and you are placing them down and seeing how those habitats will interact together, so you can then place the animals into that space and you can score them in a multitude of different ways. I think there's 6 different scoring opportunities within the base game. And what I love about this game is that you're building out your own separate ecosystem, which means you're not in direct competition with your opponents, other than for scoring purposes, but you are drafting from the same pool. You're going to be drafting a pair of animals and tiles. You can put them out onto your own little board and build them in whatever way you like. But because it's so calm, it doesn't feel like you're doing anything aggressive. Hate drafting is a thing, you can do it, but it doesn't feel like it. It feels like the game is just there to have a nice time and just be fun to play. And that's what I love about it. It had such a nice feeling when we played it on stream. We've played it 3 or 4 times now, because we did multiple games in a single session. It's the only game I don't have to hand yet on this list. The reason for that is because it has been bought to me for me as a present from Ross, as part of his Kickstarter for the next in the Flat Out and AEG collaboration of Verdant, and that will be on its way to me soon. So I consider it as in my collection. I just haven't physically got it yet, but it is a game I really wanted to get because of that play that I had. Playing it digitally, it was just such a nice experience. So that is my number 3. It is Cascadia. And number 2 is a trilogy of games, a set of games that would not be complete without each other. But it was the first one that really brought me into it, and if I hadn't played that first one, I wouldn't have wanted to buy the other 2. The trilogy is the West Kingdom trilogy from Garfield Games, so we are looking at Architects of the West Kingdom, Paladins of the West Kingdom, and the Viscounts of the West Kingdom. I loved Architects when we first played it. I thought it was possibly the best game I had ever played at that time, and I still do. I still think it is a fantastic worker placement game where you are trying to build out different buildings and put out different landmarks and hire different people and work from resources. But unlike every other worker placement game I've come across, the spots are unlimited and they get stronger the more workers you put there. It's a sort of worker investment game. The more workers you put there, the more resource you're going to get. So you start off in one day, you're going to go here, I'm going to get 1 wood. Next round, I need some more wood. You put a second worker there, you're going to get 2 wood, because both of those workers are going to work together to get you that back. And so on, and you can build some really strong actions. And you have 20 workers in order to do this. So you can diversify and not make it look too obvious of what you're trying to do. But there's always a risk. There's a risk that your opponent might alert the guards and get your workers arrested and captured into their player board and then sent to jail, where they'll get a hefty sum of money back to them. And that's what I like about it. I think Architects of the West Kingdom plays incredibly well at all player counts, which is really unusual. It can play 1 to 5, and because of the way that the game expands with more players, I think it just makes it really easy. The turns are really snappy. The first time we played it was just Dom and I, and we played it 2-player without the AI as a third opponent. And we were able to play that throughout a stream. We then played it with 5 players when Laura, Tom, and Ross all joined us. And we were able to play it within a stream again. We were able to play it within that 2-hour slot that we have. So I thought, that's pretty good. I still really enjoyed it. And then I played it solo. And playing it solo just really reinforced it to me that this game is fantastic. And I've really enjoyed the other games in the series. Paladins of the West Kingdom is a really good, thinky game about extending your turns. I mentioned it a little earlier on when I was talking about Lost Ruins of Arnak. There are a lot of things that you're trying to do with these paladins and these workers that you're recruiting to try and sustain your turns as long as possible. And Viscounts of the West Kingdom, I need to play again, quite frankly, because although I enjoyed it when we first played it, we played it wrong. And we freely admit that we screwed that one up. We weren't moving things together quite as much. There's sort of 2 morality things, and if they clash, then you have to flip over your deck and shuffle it, and you do other things. And we just forgot to do that. We forgot to read that part of the rulebook. So we need to give it another go, but we really enjoyed it. That took us a little bit longer to play because we screwed it up, quite frankly. So if you want to watch our playthrough, you watch us having fun playing it, just not playing it right. That's a whole other thing. But if it wasn't for the strength of playing Architects of the West Kingdom and playing it online on Tabletopia, I probably wouldn't have looked at Viscounts or Paladins. I probably would have gone, they're fine. I wouldn't worry about that. But Architects really drew me into it. But the only reason it's not number 1 on this list, aside from it being on number 1 on quite a few of my other lists, because it's my favourite game of all time at the moment, is because of the story that comes with what is number 1 on this list. We'll get into that right about now. So at number 1 is a game that we first played on our partner platform as Sovranti. It comes to us from unknown origins, with weird shapes coming from the sky as we terraform it to make it ours. We bump up those tracks, and we revolve the Susans. We're of course talking about Planet Unknown, and I think Planet Unknown has a real push to be my game of the year of 2022. It is just so much fun, and in the game you are basically taking tiles. You're going to be rotating a Lazy Susan to choose tiles from 2 different depots, from 6 different segments of the Lazy Susan. And you're going to be taking one of those tiles out and placing it onto your board so that you can use the planet's resources and sort of map out the terrain as much as possible. You're going to score points for different lines and columns that you fill out as fully completed on your planet. But you're also going to be able to bump up different tracks that will get you different bonuses. So you can bump up water, that's going to give you a load of points, but only if you place a water tile on the planetary ice. You can bump up the technology track and gain little bonuses that would let you break the rules. You could move up the plant track and get yourself little 1x1 squares that you can just pop in wherever you like. There's all sorts of variety in here as well, because all the maps inside it are double-sided, as are the corporation boards. You can flip them over. There is a standard map that everyone can play with, and there's a standard corporation. Or you can flip it over, and you can have completely async maps and civilizations. Civilizations? Corporations, that's the word I was looking for. I'm going to keep that in, because why not? And there is just so much that you can do with this game. I really fell in love with it when I first played it. It was just so fantastic for me. I think it genuinely does have a place on my list as the game of 2022, because I think it is so good. It did come in at number 7 on the games I prefer to play digitally, and that's because it does have, it has a few quirks. Like, I don't quite understand why this box lid doesn't shut fully. There's a tiny little gap. This is the deluxe edition, so it has a slightly higher Lazy Susan, and it just domes ever so slightly, which is a bit of a problem. But not that much. I mean, most of the time it's sat here on the shelf, not doing anything. Apart from when it's on the table. So, that's fine. And putting the tiles away at the end of the game. They've got their own little slots to go into their depots, but it's a bit fiddly to pull them out and give them a shuffle and put them back in again. But you know what? You make do with those. You know, it's a problem of playing a game. You're going to have those takedown sets. But it's no more irritating than having to break apart, say, Dominion at the end of the game, or Great Western Trails, when you're having to take apart the cards that have gone into your deck and put them into different places. It's all the same, really. And, you know, that's why we play games digitally, so that we don't have to do those things. But we buy them because of those experiences. And one last thing, almost forgot about the story. I definitely didn't come back and film this the day after I filmed the first part. With Planet Unknown, I really wanted to get it as soon as I played it on Sovranti. And it was just unavailable. I think it just finished the Kickstarter. Hello. And it was just completely unavailable in the UK. And then they released Adam's Apple Games released a sort of pre-order for excess of the deluxe editions. And that was available in the States. And I thought, okay, I can get that shipped over. And I had a look at it, and the cost of shipping was huge. Not through Adam's Apple Games or anything like that. It was just getting across the UK. It just made it really unaffordable. So I contacted a friend of mine who lives in the States and said, would you be able to sort something out for me? He said, yeah, not a problem. So, the story of this game, it's traveled around the UK, or around the US for me, rather. Went from Adam's Apple's distribution to them, and then all the way across the Atlantic to me. So, yeah, that's why it made number one, because of how far I was willing to go to make sure I got a copy of this game. It was that much of an experience. That is my top 10 list of games that I have bought because I've played them digitally. There are many more on this list that didn't make the list, quite frankly. I'm just looking at the list looking at this shelf right now, just thinking, what else is on here? There's a lot. There's EatCrit, Hippocrates. God damn it. There's Red Rising, there's Mysterium. There's all sorts of games that I played digitally before I bought them physically. So if that's not a sign to publishers that they should put more of their games available for people to play digitally, do it. It didn't slow down the industry. I think, if anything, it's made the industry much broader because people can get together and try things out beforehand. There are so many games that I would not have even discovered or looked at because I have a limited budget, as do we all. And if I hadn't played them, I wouldn't have known about them. I might have gone for something that was a little bit more well-known, that I'd heard about or I'd played before because someone else has it. But now, because we're playing these digitally, my collection has gotten so much more diverse. And I think that's what we need. So, my plea to publishers, put your games on things like Board Game Arena, Sovranti, Tabletopia. It really makes a difference if we are able to play these games. So, that's my list. What do you think at home? Do you think that there's a place for games to be put digitally so that you can try them before you buy them, like a library? Or do you just want to go in blind and pick up those games? Because that is absolutely fine as well. This is just, I like to play these beforehand so I know what I'm getting into. But that is my list. Thank you so much for being here. If you like what we do, you can check out some of our other videos over there. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of these things. And until then, take care of yourselves. Bye, everyone. Check it out today on Sovranti. Use the code EatCritSurvive to get yourself a free platinum account. No, that's the wrong code.